Hey y'all, what's up? Now, I'm back on Share My Story again. I just did a video I want to say 3 hours ago. But I got super bored just watching videos and doing nothing. So, here we are, back doing videos. Alrighty, last time we watched my stepdad got me pregnant, and why is it not letting me in? And not that allergic to water, but there was another allergic to water. But now I want to do how I get straight A's without studying, and then I want to try doing I fell in love with my bully. I want to know how to get straight A's without studying.
So just lying down,
Oh, I have
we're going to focus the attention on the different parts of the body.
It's a really great meditation
as they switch off for the night.
And this ad is really fun.
Starting down at the feet, muscles in the
But just in
toes
case if
and
you
the
guys will never
arches
see
switching
this
off.
ad again, I'll just let the ad
The
go.
legs, any tension just dissolving as the calves and thighs power down. The muscles in the lower back and the stomach switching off. Now the chest and upper back switching off.
It's actually
shoulders,
very relaxing.
the arms, the hands and fingers just switching off. The face, the eyes, the mouth, any tension just melting away as the muscles switch off, shut.
Anyway, okay, the reason I like that app a lot is because it takes practice. It takes practice for meditation. Believe me, you're probably wondering, what? You just sit there and do nothing, or lay there and do nothing, but just relax. Actually, it's hard. I've tried it. In most of the lessons, it says feel the weight whenever you're touching. And for my legs, I feel so much weight and pressure at the bottom. I have to move them again. I have to feel tight again and then relax them and start all over. It's hard. But I've been practicing lately and it's gotten better. Anyway, let's get up with the video.
My name is Susan, and I didn't have the best childhood. I guess it was my mom's fault. Criticized me and said, "Why aren't you smarter? Why aren't you prettier? No guy will ever date a girl like you." You can imagine how I grew up quite insecure. I avoided making friends because I thought no one anyway. But that changed in 11th grade. I became friends with Lena, and she had a reputation of being a bad girl. We started going to parties together, and I felt like I finally belonged. There, I met this one guy called Milo. We had so much fun together that I decided to move out of my mom's place and in with him. He was 4 years older than me, but he was just as much of a mess as I was. After I barely graduated from high school, we partied every single night. Sounds fun, right? But it wasn't really. I felt more and more like a loser, so I decided to enroll in college. It was quite expensive though, and I had to go on credit. But I hoped that being in debt would motivate me to finally start studying and get control of my life. But that wasn't the case. I still didn't study and got terrible grades on my exams. One day my professor asked me why I was struggling with his material, and I told him I had a problem sitting down and concentrating. He said I shouldn't worry and that I could study right next to him. It sounded like a wonderful idea, so I agreed, and it worked for the first 2 weeks. But then I stopped showing up. My professor was very disappointed and told me if you don't start studying, you won't pass your exam. But I knew it was already too late and didn't even try. I mean, I still took the exam, but it was a disaster. I only knew maybe 5% of the answers. After the exam, I went back to my professor. I said, "I completely messed it up. I'm so sorry. I really wanted to study, but I just didn't know how." He said, "Well, it's too late now anyway." Ugh. I wanted to cry. But then I noticed that all the other students had already left. In a last attempt to persuade my professor to give me another chance, I sat with my big butt on his lap. He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm so sorry, but I can't take it anymore. I have so much stress living at home, and I just need someone to give me a hug." I pressed myself against him, and I think he really felt bad for me, because after I told him a bit more about my problems, he offered to let me move in with him. I said, "That would be so nice of you," and pressed myself against him again. It was a very long hug, but it felt so good. And at the end, I whispered in his ear, "I hope we become very close friends." When I arrived at his home in the evening, he told me I could sleep on his couch, and then he said goodnight. But I responded, "Wait," and came close to him. Then I stood on my tiptoes and gave him a long kiss on his mouth. He liked it and put his hands upon my waist. That one kiss changed everything. Within a few days, we were in a passionate relationship. He had also tried to make me study for college, but it was hopeless. I always ended up kissing and making out with him. He was my professor in 3 of my 9 classes, so I saw him at school a lot. One evening, I asked him if he could give me a better grade, but he said that would be wrong and I couldn't do it. But I said, "What we're doing here is wrong too. I mean, professor-student relationships aren't allowed. It says so in the school policies." He said, "What are you saying?" I didn't say anything more, but I knew he understood the subtle threat. I think he was a bit angry, but it didn't stop him from caring about me. We lived together for over 2 years, and I got what I wanted from him the whole time. He not only gave me good grades when I told him to, but he also paid for my food and all my other expenses. He kept it up until I graduated. With the good grades he'd given me and a recommendation letter he wrote for me, I had everything I needed to go out on my own. So it was really easy to find a job. In fact, I found a position making $60,000 US. I was so excited to start my new life. But karma has a way of catching up to you. After 2 months, the people at my company realized I didn't know the first thing about accounting. They fired me immediately. By the time I left the building, I felt depressed and worthless again. I'd already moved out of my professor's home, so I needed to find another job quickly. That's why I ended up working as a cashier at Walmart. It's an easy job, but the salary's so low, I can barely afford to pay the rent on my shared apartment. Even worse, I owe $30,000 in student loans, and I have no idea how I'm going to pay them off. Sometimes I wish I had treated my professor better. Maybe if I had, we'd have gotten into a serious relationship and had a nice life together.
Oh. So let me get this straight. You broke up with him or something? Because you were manipulating him? It's obviously cheating, so goodbye. Now we're doing I fell in love with my bully. That was a weird way of getting straight A's without studying.
And everyone in my school knew me as the head cheerleader. But I saw myself more as a science geek because I loved doing homework with my best friend Sarah after school.
Love doing homework?
But one day, Brad came to our table and asked Sarah,
but don't do it.
"Hey, have you done my homework yet?"
No.
Sarah started giggling and said, "Sure, here it is." And Brad said, "Thanks, you're the best."
Mockingbird.
I asked her, "What just happened?" And Sarah told me she'd done Brad's homework because he was so cute and handsome. For some reason, that really bothered me. Brad was the biggest jerk in our school, and I knew he was only using my friend Sarah. He wasn't interested in dating her or anything. When he came back to our table the next day and asked Sarah for more homework, I told him to go away. But Sarah said, "No, it's okay. Here's your homework, Brad." Before he could take it, I grabbed it, ripped it into 4 pieces, and poured water over it. What happened next was crazy. We were in the middle of the cafeteria, and he screamed, "Hey everybody, look, Selena is wet." And then he took a glass of water and poured it all over me. I was furious, but with everyone staring at me, I was too shy to say or do anything back. A lot of people started laughing. I was so angry I wanted to rip his head off. But before I could find a knife, one of our teachers took us aside and asked what happened. Brad told her I had ripped his homework up and he just took revenge. Of course, I tried to explain how he was exploiting my friend by making her do his homework. but the stupid teacher gave both of us detention.
Uh-oh.
Now I had to sit next to this jerk for 2 hours.
2
Literally
hours?
right
Mine's
next
an
to
hour
him.
and a half.
He kept staring at me, and then he said, "We should go on a date. You are pretty cute." I told him, "In your dreams," because everyone in our school knew he was a bad boy. He'd had at least 4 girlfriends in the last 2 years. He was also in a relatively successful band, which meant that he had lots of girls chasing after him. There was no way his charm would work on me after he embarrassed me in front of my whole school. But the next weekend, he came by my house with roses. It was so cringeworthy. And when I opened the door, my dad was right next to me. It was so embarrassing. And my dad asked Brad, "Who the hell are you?" And Brad responded,
Why is it embarrassing? You're not in love with him. Why is it embarrassing for your dad to be there? He could actually shoo him off for you. Just be like, bye, goodbye, bye.
"I'm Selena's future boyfriend."
Up.
And then he laid down the roses and walked away. Oh gosh, there was no way this would work on me. He had even attached a card saying, "I'm sorry for what I've done. I know sometimes I act stupid, but I want to change for you." I threw the roses into the trash, but for some reason, I couldn't get Brad out of my head. I mean, I had to admit that he was somehow cute and charming, even though I knew he was only playing with me. There was no way he wanted a serious relationship. But for the next weeks, he kept on trying, always asking me how I was doing and if I wanted to go out with him. His confidence was kind of attractive. And finally, I gave in and agreed on a date. I thought maybe he'd been a bad boy in the past, but with my help, he could turn into a nice and good guy. Yes, stupid me really believed that.
Really?
Until I received a message one day.
Stupid you.
All it said was, "He has a kid." What? Who has a kid? Was the person talking about my boyfriend? I tried to call the number and texted back. "What do you mean?" But I never got a response. I didn't want to believe it, and asked Brad about it. But he said it was just one of his jealous ex-girlfriends trying to break us up. Wow, that was kinda romantic. I liked the fact that other girls were trying to get him back, but he chose to stay with me. But then he casually mentioned that his ex was still hanging out with him all the time. They were often jamming and making music. I told him I wanted to see her, so he invited me to one of their private jam sessions. I was shocked to see how gorgeous she was, and I was crazy jealous when they jammed and sang together for like an hour. I felt like the third wheel. He told me they'd broken up because they weren't a fit, but I was so insecure afterward that I started stalking my boyfriend whenever I could. I'd borrow my dad's car, wait in front of his house, and follow him wherever he went. And guess what? He went to another girl's house. But not just some random girl. No, he went to my nerdy friend's house. I was shocked. I mean, was she still doing his homework? Why hadn't she told me about it? I mean, I was his girlfriend, and I was her best friend. Something was wrong. So I went to her house to look through the window, trying to figure out what they were doing. But they were just sitting on the couch watching a movie. It was so strange. I went back home, and when my boyfriend came by, I confronted him. I told him to show me his phone and tell me if he had met any other girls. He gave it to me gladly, but there was no messages or calls to my best friend. The next school day, I went to Sarah and asked her, "Hey, how are you? How was your weekend?" She said it was pretty boring. Sure. Next, I took her phone. She said, "Hey, give it back." But I had every right to take it, because she should have told me she was meeting my boyfriend behind my back. Luckily, I knew her password, and there was a chat with someone called Paul, but it was actually my boyfriend. I knew that because it was his number, and in their chat, she had used hearts several times. I asked her why she was meeting my boyfriend behind my back, but she said she was only doing his homework. Of course, I knew she was lying. She wanted to steal my boyfriend from me. That day, I broke up with both of them. My boyfriend didn't even care. He just said, "Okay." Now I know that dishonest jerks don't change. He had only pretended to be a good guy to get into bed with me. Fine.
Wait, he got into
Lesson
bed with you?
learned.
Okay. Why are you trying this? My span is 85. Who doesn't actually live that long. That app only shows you what you want to know. That's it. It doesn't show you what bad things are gonna happen. But anyway, see y'all later. Bye.